Hi, I'm Tim Lennon, Executive Director at Langston.
And I'm Jasmine Scott, the Program Manager at Langston. And I'm here to welcome you to the 18th Annual Seattle Black Film Festival, our second fully online festival.
We look forward to rejoining you here in person soon at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute in Seattle's Central District. For now, stay healthy, get vaccinated, and enjoy all the programs we have to offer online.
We're so excited to launch this year's festival on a brand new platform, and we've added a ton of video on demand options as well as timed events for you to enjoy. So we're so glad that you could join us again virtually this year for the festival. If you'd like to learn more about the Seattle Black Film Festival, about Langston, about all of our other programs, or to donate in support of our programs, please visit langstonseattle.org.
On behalf of the Langston family, I want to thank our sponsors and each and every one of you for joining us here for this year's film festival. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Welcome to Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. I'm Festival Director Andrea Stuart-Lehalle.
And I'm Zola Mumford, Festival Curator.
You made it. You're here, and we're so glad you joined us.
This year, we're excited to share over 70 films from across the diaspora, telling stories that elevate Black cinematic brilliance. Our stories? Stories that speak our truth.
Before we get started, here are a few notes about this year's festival.
This year, we are fully online, so you don't even have to leave your home to catch some of the best new films in Black independent cinema.
Please assume that any films in this year's festival may include mature content. Please do your best to make your own choices about what might be appropriate for you.
Also, we've done our best to deliver an accessible festival, so some of our films do feature closed captioning or subtitles.
A huge thank you to Langston and our entire filmmaking community and filmmakers of this year's official selection. We are so excited. Have a great festival.
And thank you for joining us for Seattle Black Film Festival 2021.
Welcome to Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. I'm your festival director, Andrea Stuart-Lehalle, and we are so glad that you joined us. Welcome to Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. I'm your festival director, Andrea Stuart-Lehalle, and this is our final event for Seattle Black Film Festival 2021, Our Identity, Our Future screening event. Thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, this is our last event. You can still access all of our video on demand options online till tomorrow, April 26th. Otherwise, if you still want to see what else is out there, please visit langstonseattle.org/SBFF for all program and ticketing information. For our final discussion this year, we've invited a special group of directors from this year's official selection that demonstrate Black brilliance in cinema to talk about their work around our theme, Our Identity, Our Future. Emerging filmmakers, these first-time creators or creators on the front lines are telling powerhouse stories about identity, our connection to the ancestors through story and movement, and our sense of belonging in our own communities. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to give you each a chance to introduce yourselves, tell us where you're joining us from on the call, and share where you are seeing Black brilliance right now in creative. Go ahead and take it away, Kemal, please. Start us off.
Oh, I thought I had another person or two to get myself together.
No, we put you on the spot. You're going first tonight.
And it is night here, and this is way past my bedtime. But hello, I am Kemal Nance. I'm joining you from Urbana, Illinois. And so we're talking about Black brilliance, where we could see Black brilliance. And it's all over the place, quite honestly. But I think I've been keeping my eye on this underground dance scene, like particularly Light Feet. I'm curious about that and how people are finding solace and joy in this really percussive fit movement that's happening, particularly out of New York. So I think that we need to keep our eye on that in terms of brilliance, Black brilliance as it manifests itself in our crazy world right now.
Love it. Justice?
Hey, I'm Justice. I'm zooming in from LA, and I am seeing Black brilliance. You know, there's always been so much everywhere, but I'm seeing it more from the audience. The support that we're getting now is amazing. And I think for our work and our art to really go further, I think you have to have the support. And just for the fans and the people to come together, even this, the support is amazing. So that's where I'm seeing it.
Thank you. Kaya?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kaya Alexandria Klingman, joining from the East Coast in Atlanta, Georgia, but I am originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. Black brilliance, that is such a good question. And I'm super excited to hear everybody's projects and see how our art is exuding Black brilliance. But I would say in advertising, in media. So I've seen so many commercials now that are really just exuding Black brilliance. Target has a campaign out right now. Procter & Gamble did an incredible campaign that my friend was actually in. And whether, you know, it's a hidden agenda or trendy, I'm just glad that we are at the forefront and that we're able to showcase Black brilliance in so many ways.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Lamont Nathaniel Gibson. I'm calling from the East Coast, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Where I'm seeing a lot of Black brilliance is actually in a little bit more of the independent actors. If you've seen a lot of Netflix shows, I'm not sure if lately if anybody got any chance to see the film Andy and Marie, I think it was. It was like in a black and white film. It was set with a Black actor, another one. I might get the name wrong. But I thought it was a really good, like just, especially with the pandemic, you know, a lot of people are binge watching and, you know, they're turning to, you know, artists, you know, arts as a way to, you know, still have a life. So with the acting that I'm seeing now, it's just a lot more, you know, realistic and I guess really, really like really good. And just as focus on darker skinned people as well. it's just good to see. Because like when I was growing up, that wasn't something that I resonated with a lot. So now that I'm seeing it a lot more, it's like, okay, it's good to see.
Thank you for that. Our theme this year is our identity, or for this evening's discussion is our identity, our future. Can each of you speak a little bit to how that theme shows up in your film, or speak to that theme a little bit? Let's go ahead and start with you, Justice, please.
Oh, yeah. For me, with my film, Wow, I really wanted to show love in our community. I think a lot of times when we watch shows, we watch films, I don't think we see enough of how we love each other on the screen. And I think that's for anyone that knows Black people in the Black community, love is such a huge thing in our community. I mean, it's everywhere you could taste it in our food, you can hear it in our music, it is everywhere. But I just want to see more of it on the screen. So I think with my film, I wanted to really show that part and that side of us.
Love that. And we can just roundtable, hop in, Did
you call on me?
Didn't hear who you said.
That's the lawn work. We can just roundtable. So y'all please hop on in.
Oh, okay. I can go next. So my project, Eavesdropping on the Elders, for sure focuses on identity through the lens of generations. So finding ourselves in our ancestors, in our elders, and the people who have raised us. It's actually my story, my true story. And so being able to find my identity through my dad's legacy is really what I show in my project, and how our ancestors have passed on just so many teachings through us. And if we just really think about it and learn about what they have taught us, then we could be so far ahead, economically, psychologically. Yeah.
I'll go next. So I am a dancer. I grew up, I didn't start pursuing dance professionally until I was in college, but dance has always been a part of my life. I'm from a single parent household, and my mother got me up, dancing to Freak Out by La Chic every morning. I've always had this connection to rhythm. And I was always interested in, as I got older, how dance, particularly professional dance, somehow got posited in our African-American communities as a non-masculine enterprise, which I think is kind of counterproductive and anticlimactic when you consider our not so distant West African retentions in our communities, where dance is central to one's gender role and gender performance in traditional African society. So I was curious about, what are we unlearning in our diasporic experience such that dance does not sit within the things that guys do? And so when I was in graduate school, and by the way, Lamont, I'm from the Philadelphia area originally too. I'm from Chester, Pennsylvania, actually, and I went to school at Temple. When I was working on my graduate work, I was doing some autoethnographic work around this idea of what is the discourse for Black men who pursue dance despite of the gendered scripts that say that they shouldn't. And so my film, Deez Nuts, Black Bodies Dancing Defiance, I wanted to see what that looked like if my story was singular, that other dancing men have that experience. And more particularly, did other dancing men have those experiences in other places of the world? So the film looks at the danced stories, if you will, of 3 Black men, one person from the United States, one person from Kingston, Jamaica, and one person from Bristol, United Kingdom. And I wanted to see, if that story resonated with them. It turned out that it did. So I had an opportunity to dance with them and testify with them individually. And then I had an opportunity to bring the 3 of them together and dance and testify and be a part of their own stories. And so the result of that is this idea of a dancing man's story. So in terms of identity, you're getting just a glimpse of what that discourse would be like in real terms on three dancing men.
Yeah, so that was a good question. I'm glad I had a little bit of time to think. Yeah, you said you went to Temple. I also went to Temple too, but that was like 2 years ago. So with the film that I made from Temple, it was a lot of negativity and pushback, obviously because it's a PWI, and I was like the only African American kid making a documentary about what's going on around us, and it just made me fight harder to make it, even though it wasn't that much positivity towards it until it got out there. But with that, I wanted to show how I've come from a poor background from North Philadelphia, and I've been able to become educated, from a PWI in my neighborhood, and be able to basically show back exactly what is going on in our neighborhood and like why this institution is feeling as though it deserves more space and more gratitude for the things it's done for North Philadelphia, and that North Philadelphia also wants to be accepted for being North Philadelphia, a really very great Black area with a very great culture. So yeah, so that's why I found my origin of film. So that's why I had to put myself in as the primary actor, and then also using other sources from Temple University to basically put that whole thing together. Because with the film, I start basically with my, origin home in Logan, which is a couple stops away from Temple, and then I take you to Temple and I show you the problem and the community around Temple and like why they're not being so cohesive, and like hopefully in the future that can change.
The orange line.
Yeah.
As someone who works in public transportation, I'm so gratified that we're talking about space and movement based on stops. It's 3 stops away. But Kemal, you gave us a great segue, and I'm glad that you already started to talk about your film, Lamont. You've submitted, or you have 2 films in the official selection this year. And
yeah, I didn't know which one to talk about. I'm sorry.
Both,
Oh,
either,
okay.
all of it. Like, you are incredibly talented, so let it all shine, please. This is
okay. I was like, oh, pick one.
No, definitely. It both represent, various things. I am going to focus on Temple right now. You talked a little bit about the pushback. And I hadn't even noticed when I watched the film that the school funded the film to some degree, as I understand it in the credits. So talk a little bit, paint a little bit broader picture of that narrative and what you were trying to say to the audience.
So with Temple, I felt like I was making it for a Black audience, but remember, I was being educated by PWI. So but I thought I was thinking I was going to educate people about gentrification in North Philadelphia and surrounding areas in Philadelphia, but also show them that I guess there's a way that you can stay above, I guess, the fray. And I don't know. I still think to myself that I was probably being too bold when I went to Temple and decided to do a film about gentrification, on Temple campus. And the fact that they wanted to, build a stadium in North Philadelphia, I just thought that was like pretty brazen, because I'm like, okay, I can understand that's going to be good for the economy, but at the same time, that's pushing other people out that's been there for a lot of time. So I was just hoping, to like, I guess, turn the light back on to the university. Because I'm like, okay, what are you doing for the community around you? Like, are you offering more African Americans in North Philadelphia scholarships to Temple? I'm like, I probably wouldn't have had a scholarship to Temple if I didn't go to community and have like a 3.5 GPA, and I had to keep that up while I was there so I could still keep that scholarship. And I was like $500. But as you go into the funding, so there's a Dean's grant when you're in a BFA concentration, and it's like a $2,000 completion Dean's grant they give you to make the film and stuff like that. So I basically used that to, set the locations, have food for crew, and secure some of the people that were doing the original music, because they're from like the North Philadelphia scene, stuff like that. And I wanted to have original tracks. So I just try to like meld a lot of things into one, and a lot of people were telling me it wasn't going to work, but I just had to like keep on pushing at it. And then, I mean, once you see it got to the end, And I think the most important part was just staying true, because the portraits of the Black and the white people, like some people didn't want me to put the white people in there, and I felt like if I left Black people in there, it would just be like making it look very like a poor poverty porn, I guess. And I'm like, I'm not doing poverty porn. Like, I am poor, but I'm not trying to do poverty porn. I want to also put them in the same light as they put us. So, and I thought that was a great idea, and I think that helped meld everything together. So you're like, okay, this is what the university is doing. These are who they serve. These are the people who they are serving. These are the people outside the university who they are not serving. You know, so yeah. But the university fund, basically, yeah, went to all the funding and all that stuff. But also had to do crowdfunding and all that to complete it and stuff like that. But I'm also having to pay that university fund back, because I think they saying I didn't turn in the right tax papers, but I'm fighting that.
That's the way to get you. That's the way to
Yeah.
get you. No, but that's a very interesting, development, because I was really intrigued when I learned that. I was like, okay, because the film, comes across face value as being quite critical of the university, and rightfully so. You asked some really important questions about the university's presence in the community, and who all of the university's various services and things are for. So I really appreciate the narrative that you've opened up in there. Let's pivot a bit. Justice, your film Wow is your directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it appears that you have picked up on the key secret sauce of filmmaking is speak your truth, tell your story. So congratulations for stumbling upon that. Tell
Thank
us
you.
a little bit more about making this film as your first film. And I have to talk about intersectionality. As the festival director, we've seen more and more films that speak to intersectionality. So I would love to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about how that shows up in your film.
Wow is a short that was based off of a full-length feature that I wrote, but COVID hit and I only had about less than half of the project. And instead of just throwing it away or just waiting, I just pieced together Wow. And basically what it's about a young orphan boy that he goes to the foster system. And along with that, all the issues of kids that have to deal with foster system, he goes through that and he has a horrible time and he's mentally and physically beat up. But one day he meets this amazing woman who takes him in and she loves him and she raises him and she changes this little boy's whole life. And eventually it's it goes off because it starts off more of a city vibe, but it goes off and she gets a job on a ranch. She owns her own housekeeping business, and so she works for a man that owns a ranch, this rich rancher. And at the ranch, the little boy he sees this beautiful little girl, and he just instantly falls in love with her. And she's completely opposite of him. She's educated, she's driven, she's everything that everybody's looking for, and he's just the opposite. He's not as educated, he's not really good with school, but the one thing that he has and knows is that he loves her and he wants her. So yeah, that's a little something.
It's super sweet. And I love just the description of, actually, we have that in the festival trailer, that scene of the first meeting of these two characters as
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And it's so beautifully shot. I mean, even just in describing it, if you rewatch the trailer, you'll know exactly which scene from which film. But a really, really gorgeous moment. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, Kaya, you're up next. Your film is terribly refreshing in, I would say, in the way that it very concretely puts on film things that, maybe other films or other narratives kind of hint at or glimpse at, this kind of desire to connect with the ancestors that all of us have felt at some time or another. Kemal, your film does that through dance. I feel that very strong connection. But Kaya, you've taken another approach of connecting your character with the ancestors. Talk a little bit about that for us, please.
Yeah, so first I want to shout out my co-director. He wasn't able to come because this was my first time directing, but he's directed so much and he sacrificed so much to help my vision come to life. So a little background, originally, this project was just supposed to be for my dad. It was his 75th birthday last year, and I surprised him with the film. He originally wrote a piece called Eavesdropping on the Elders like over 10 years ago. And he emailed me maybe 4 years ago and said, "Hey, I would love to see this on film." And my dad is an author. He's written over 12 books. He's a civil rights activist. He is a professor, was a professor, and he teaches African American studies, economics. He is a firm believer in advocacy, initiative, and entrepreneurship. And with that, he's also started 2 entrepreneurship high schools around the country. So I wanted to do something for him that would contribute to his legacy because he is now dying of ALS. So the dad that I knew is not the dad that I once knew. He's completely dependent now. He cannot walk. He cannot eat by himself. He cannot do anything by himself. And for me, it was imperative that I told this story and was able to do that while he was still alive. He is still alive. So so that's just a little background about the project. And I am so grateful that it's now in its 8th festival. I had no idea it would even get that far. So yes. So my project is called Eavesdropping on the Elders, and it's about a girl in college who is subconsciously isolating herself from the trauma and grief that she has to deal with as her dad battles this insidious disease, ALS. She procrastinates to get a paper done, and with a little help from her father, she is then forced to bridge 2 generations together and in turn help continue her father's legacy. And she does this through access to the ancestral realm. So her father has a pair of glasses, and I love sci-fi and history. So I wanted to kind of merge those 2 things together. And with the help of my co-director, Robinson Ville, who is amazing, he was able to help me tell this story the way that I wanted to tell it. So our character gets to talk to our ancestors. So imagine being in a room with Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Ida B. Wells, Frederick Douglass, Booker T, W.E.B. Like, imagine being in a room with these people. Like, what would they say to us? Like, what would they think of Black people now? What would they think of our spending habits specifically? And that is what I touch on because I wanted to continue my dad's legacy. My dad is all about economics and collective empowerment, also about leveraging our votes. Recently in Atlanta, we saw that displayed with Delta, with Coca-Cola, with Black executives pooling our votes together. And then that is where the change happened. So I touch on all of that because you're right, no one is explicitly talking about that. And I wanted to make that shown through an important conversation with our elders. So, yeah.
Gorgeous. And, like I was saying with justice, when you are able to tap into your purpose, your film is just a demonstration of how it gives a film wings and really creates a powerful narrative. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Kemal, you are next. So in speaking about identity and future, your film offers, I see a lot of optimism and energy, not only through the powerful dance performances of the 3 gentlemen that you spoke about earlier, but also through the narrative of these 3 Black men and what they are living. Tell us about what you wanted the audience to get out of that film, to feel and to take away.
Well, I wanted to complicate this notion of a Black manhood. I wanted to share the other side of misguided quips like boys don't do this and girls do that. I wanted to share the other side of that, like the young man who, who has to hear that and internalize that, and what that does to one's spirit and things of that nature. And it's interesting. The hardest part about doing this film was deciding what to give the audience. The film is just a microcosm of the visual data I collected, like, the stories, the way these, and I'm really grateful to these young men who were generous with their lived experiences with me, and just really opened their hearts and their lives to me. But I wanted to complicate this idea of maleness and manliness, and I wanted to complicate it with dance, and so I'm hoping that happens a bit. I do need to shout out all three of my dancers, who I'm really, really proud of, and my partner in arms, Christian Barreto Avila, who was my film editor and did a lot of the filming under my direction. He's also my dance son, so he has to share in this success as well, because he was really helpful in an idea. But yeah, I think those are the images that I wanted, or that was the meta narrative of the film, was to kind of complicate things of that nature, and to take dance out of this kind of presentational kind of modality, and really have it be a vehicle for something else that's going on in the young men who are performing.
Lots of snapping. No, appreciate that so much. And I'm going to keep going with you, actually. I'm super curious to hear from each of you, and we'll start with you, Kemal. COVID-19 descended upon all of your productions in whatever phase they were in, be it post-production or, just touching up your credits, or just about to head into full production. Not so much focusing on, how you all, what happened in your productions, but I'd love to hear about some of your takeaways. Excuse me. What did you learn in order to overcome and get to the finish line with your film that you are sure you will carry with you as you continue in film?
Mm-hmm. Well, interestingly enough, I can't claim anything. COVID definitely has taught me a lot, but I don't think you'll see any of it in this particular film, only because by the time COVID hit, I was well into post-production. Like, I was, testing it out. So, and I had done a lot of the filming a long time before I actually started pulling it together. So I wasn't directly affected by COVID, other than the fact that it just put a fire under me to get the message out, right? It gave me more of the urgency of now. That people need to see this story and hear this story, and particularly in the wake of George Floyd, and and the countless of other Black men who've just been incinerated and just terminated, just because. I think beautiful images of Black men are quintessential right now. So in that regard, it put a push behind me, but I don't think I have any direct takeaways in terms of the actual production of the film that way.
I appreciate that. And even, in the question, I think the intensity that last year offered, and just the hardship, emotionally and spiritually for everyone. I conflate even, COVID and all of the social justice, resurgence that happened after the murder of George Floyd. And I think that impacted all creatives in a certain way. So I appreciate you separating those two out in a distinct way. Like COVID, okay, it was a thing, but the fire to really get those representations out there really struck you last year with the murder of George Floyd. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Justice, would you like to weigh in?
Oh yeah. COVID for me, it was a game changer, because this was my first real shoot that I've done. I've done some smaller things, but this was the first real thing. And I've never edited before. And I, for anyone knows about filmmaking, the hours and the time you put and the money you put into editing is so extreme. Like, you will never know how much time and effort is put into each one of these films. And COVID gave me the opportunity to really research, try different things, look at everyone else's work, use some of their stuff, learn YouTube, different things. Uh, Again, I can't even count the amount of hours for everyone. I'm sure everyone that edits, you can't even count the amount of hours that you put in. But that was a great thing that happened with me.
I appreciate the positivity. Not everyone has gotten there yet, but I feel like everyone will at some point. Lamont?
Yeah, so both my films were luckily done before COVID hit. I think more of my struggles with festival circuits and everything going online and stuff like that. It got a little bit more, I guess, difficult to get it selected into festivals, stuff like that. But it has gotten into some really great festivals, so I'm lucky for that. And then I think it was also with the George Floyd protest that like really like lit a fire under me to see exactly like how things are they say they're changing, but they're not like changing, to actually be like, this is good for, Black men in the future. So yeah, I mean, COVID, probably was the most depressing year of my life because I mean, it was a lot of time alone and, couldn't see anybody. But yeah, I think it was more just trying to like continue to try to get your word out there during COVID. It felt like that was a little bit more harder than anything because it just felt like everybody was just like, and a little bit more of a panic, worried about life, so it felt kind of like trivial to be like, my film, so, I mean, but I'm good now, so.
I appreciate that though. Film on the spectrum of 2020 and, millions of people losing jobs and, so much instability. And you've got this film that you're trying to complete and you're like, people are dying, my film. It's a really unique position for a filmmaker to be in. That's just super real. But I think all of you are uniting behind a similar message of, yeah, COVID happened and it made it even more necessary for Black film to continue and Black creation to get completed and get out there and get amplified. So really, really appreciate that. Kaya?
Yeah, aside from the tragedy that obviously COVID has caused, quarantine specifically taught me that the excuse "I don't have a time" is not a thing. So being in isolation and us like having day after day and like not getting anything done or not starting that project, it really taught me like we can have all the time in the world. But we were obviously dealing with a lot mentally, psychologically, echoing Kemal's sentiments, the George Floyd protests that really, like you said, put a fire behind me that I need to get this message out. I need to finish post-production. I need to submit to festivals. And I think the first festival that I submitted to was the Social Justice Now Film Festival that ABF actually created specifically, reactionary to the protest. And just to see how art was transforming because of what was happening, I think was fascinating to see. And the fact that we all as filmmakers have had the opportunity to be involved in that way, I think is really powerful.
So true. What is next for each of you? Let's go ahead and do the round table. What are you working on now? What are your big plans for this film? If you've got any, what do we need to know about your next steps? And let's go ahead and start with you, Lamont, please.
So with the two films that I have now, I guess I'm just still doing festival submissions and trying to figure out where I'm going next with that. But I'm also working on a documentary that's focused on what happened around the George Floyd protest. I'm not sure if anybody heard 52nd Street. There was a little bit of a scuffle up there between police and some of the Black residents, and basically what you call it, case was filed against the city for like unlawful use of spray gun and stuff like that during the so-called protest they say on 52nd Street. So right now I'm just basically doing the research on that and the interviews and stuff. And as well, working with these two films, just hoping to just keep the word out that, a Black identity is so many things. It's just not, one thing. It's an onion, so many layers that you just have to like sit back and behold the beautiful. You know what I mean? It's the good of it. So that's what I'm trying to do next.
Kaya?
Yeah. Well, I just quit my corporate job first week of February that I've worked for 5 years to become a full-time producer, filmmaker. So I'm still adjusting to being a full-time entrepreneur, but God has blessed me with producing opportunities for other people's projects and on a independent level, which is my jam. But I'm producing 2 films in LA and actually a music video coming up for a big artist here in Atlanta. So I'm really excited about that. But in addition to that, I'm continuing to push this film, you know, submit to other festivals that are, in alignment because I was very, very specific. Just like Seattle Black Film Festival, I'm just really grateful that my film not only was selected but aligns with the mission and the theme that you guys are pushing for this year. So yeah, just trying to push it out there and then eventually release it publicly because the film needs to be seen by a wider audience. That's what it's for specifically. I think all of our films. So yeah.
And I have to ask, what does your dad think of the film?
Oh, he loved it, guys. He absolutely loved it. I got to premiere it in his hometown, Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Freedom Fund Center, the Underground Railroad Freedom Fund Center that he actually helped bring Black contractors on to help build. So it was like a full circle moment and surprised him with all of his friends and family members flew like all across the country to be there. And he got to see it on a big screen. So it was amazing. And he's like, can we make it bigger? Can it be longer? He's thinking like feature or a series, which I have been thinking about too, like an anthology thing. So yeah, I have been thinking of other ideas. So we may go there.
So excited. Well, now you're a film producer. So
Yeah.
at least you can check that box and like the film has a producer. But that is wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Justice, what's next for you?
I'm an actor in LA, and I have an episode. There's this TV show called Animal Kingdom on TNT. I have an episode coming out on that, and I've been auditioning a lot lately, which is really cool. But producing wise and writing wise, I'm working on a rom com. I, I I really like this love story. Uh, Angle that I'm going. So I'm going to try to continue to try to put more romantic content out there.
More Black love. I love that. More Black love. More. We're going to hold you to that. Kemal, what's coming next?
Okay, well, I'm a assistant professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And so so the first thing is I am doing the films, the festival circuit, trying to get it out there because I think it's a message that people need to hear. I'm interested in it in being an educational space for people to dialogue about Black masculinity. So I'm not sure when it's going to be published, but I've written a book chapter in a book called Why Boys Don't Dance by P.E.L.E. It's going to be published by Palgrave Macmillan. That's specifically about this film, the academic side of this film that looks at the theory behind it and the research that informed it. So that's coming out. And I'm a choreographer, so I want to keep doing more with it. So this was my first time using my choreography in this kind of film mode. So it's a first time for me. So I kind of like it because it can reach more audiences than like one theater can. So I'm looking to translate some more of my other choreographies in this modality and see what happens. So that's what's next for me. And getting tenure. So
by the way, just on the end, yeah. And getting tenure, congratulations on that. That's no small feat.
Trying to. No, that this is all a part of that pathway.
The trajectory. I appreciate that. All right, we are about out of time, but I wanted to invite everybody. We'll go back down the line again. Kemal, Kaya, Justice, and Lamont, you can wrap us up. What advice would you offer to emerging filmmakers or up-and-coming filmmakers or people who haven't quite gotten to the convincing themselves that they can make their first film? What words of wisdom can you offer?
Well, I would borrow a slogan. I think Kaya mentioned advertising, right? You just got to do it, right? If it's in your heart to do it, if it's in your belly, if you wake up thinking about a thing, you should be doing the thing. And worry about the other stuff later. If you're doing, I'm a firmly believer, if you're doing what you're called to do, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, it will fall into place. So do it. Start somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna echo what Kemal said. But also, if you don't feel strongly about knowing how to do something, find someone who can. I love collaborating. I love teams. I love teamwork. And I've been, where I lack, I find the person who can. And, you don't always have to pay someone, you can barter. So you say, if you're good at writing, you write, have them direct your film or vice versa. So
Yeah.
I think collaboration is key to filmmaking. You cannot do it on your own, and you should not do it on your own. So yeah, get a good network together of people, of other artists who are like-minded, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable and share your story with them, because art is meant to be judged, and some people are gonna like it, some people aren't, and that's none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Yeah, I just think like, why not you? It's got to happen to somebody. Someone's going to do it. Why not you? Your truth is more than enough. Everyone has their own truth and everyone can relate to it. So you're enough and it's fun.
I love it. Lamont?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I think my advice, because like Kaya was saying, like you should not have to be doing alone, and you should have a community of filmmakers, of people that you could communicate with. I didn't have that at T.E.M.P.L.E, but I mean, now I do have a little bit more of that after I have left T.E.M.P.L.E. But my advice, that's what I'm saying, because I was a super shy person before college, and I probably wouldn't have picked myself into doing film. So I would just have to say, like, if you feel as though like you have a story to tell, you have stories that you want people to hear, and you feel as though they're going to help better people, they're going to question what the status quo is. Oh, I mean, just like because I'm trying to figure out like why did I do this, but yeah, I'm just like I think it's just that tick in you where you're just like this is something that I want to share, and you got to be as she's saying, vulnerable to put it out there, because that's the worst part, is about being vulnerable and having to hear those harsh opinions and stuff like that, and just being able to take it and be able to create more. So yeah, it's two-sided sport, but it's fun.
I love that, both of you, Justice and Lamont. It's fun. Like at the end of the day, it's a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun. And Kaya, words of wisdom, just put it out there. Art is meant to be judged. So it's not about you. That's just what we do. We see stuff and we want to share our opinion on it. So
Yeah.
they're sharing their opinion in a negative way about your work. That's just what people do. And that's what the creation's about. So just keep on creating. I wish I had learned that and embraced that earlier.
Yeah.
Earlier on. So much truth. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. Congratulations on your hard work, and we really do wish you the best moving forward. We hope that you'll come back and see us again, that you'll continue to submit your work and continue to show our audience just the Black brilliance that is going on in filmmaking. So thank you to our audience for joining us for Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. This is it. It's over. We did it. We are so happy that you joined us for our Identity, our future screening event, and for the entire Seattle Black Film Festival. Thank you to all of our sponsors, to Stage 32 Studios, our education and networking partner. And if you still want to check out any last information or ticketing information about Seattle Black Film Festival 2021, check out langstonseattle.org/SBFF. And Langston is going to keep on putting out amazing program all throughout the year. So it does not stop here. langstonseattle.org. Please take our survey and also rate your films in the system. There's little stars, and so you can let us know which films you thought were the best. Be well, be solid. We love you, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.